Hello there, BKFK listeners. Coming up in this episode of By Kids for Kids Storytime, Fergus O'Gold, the leprechaun, catches a burglar trying to steal his treasure.
By my shiny buttons, this is one dangerous creature.
He finds out more about this mysterious creature.
She comes from Zul'Gath. The entire village of Zul'Gath must be a nest of thieves.
The Snaggletonians march to the village of Zul'Gath, and they are shocked at what they find.
Every village has its own troublemakers. It's not fair to think we are all sour.
But first, let's hear who the superstars are on this episode.
My name is Katie, and I am 6 years old. And I love novels, and I'm very interested in nature. And my favorite game is Crystal Blast on my little blue camera. Hello everyone, I'm Sarah and I'm 8 years old and I'm in Singapore and my favorite activity is drawing.
Hi, my name is Mila. I'm 10 years old and I live in Stuttgart, Germany. I like riding mountain bike and swimming.
Hello, my name is Ellie. I'm 8 years old and I live in Germany. I like dancing ballet and riding mountain bike.
Well done, kids. Great to have you on the team. All right, let's get on with the story. The One Orc Conclusion. It was late at night in Snaggleton. Inside his cozy cottage, Fergus O'Gold the leprechaun was not asleep. By the flickering light of a single candle, he sat on the floor, running his fingers through a small, glittering pile of gold coins.
Oh, your magnificent shiny treasures,
he whispered to himself. He knew he was learning that community was far more important than gold, but the happy clinking sound was hard to resist. After a few more minutes of admiration, he sighed, poured the coins back into a heavy wooden chest, and locked it with a small brass key. He slid the chest under his bed, crawled beneath a mountain of patchwork blankets, and drifted off to sleep, dreaming of rainbows and gold. Sometime in the middle of the night, a noise woke him. Fergus's eyes snapped open in the darkness. His heart began to beat like a drum. That was the sound of his chest being dragged across the floorboards. Someone was in his house. Slowly, silently, he reached a hand down into the darkness under his bed. He expected to feel the familiar wood of his chest, but instead his fingers brushed against something rough, leathery, and strangely warty. A voice in the dark let out a surprised, guttural shriek. Fergus screamed too.
Ah, monster!
A loud scuffle erupted in the pitch-black room. Fergus tumbled out of bed, grappling with the unseen burglar. They bumped into furniture, knocked over a lamp with a crash, and rolled across the floor in a chaotic tangle of arms and legs. It was impossible to see who or what he was fighting. The commotion was so loud that it woke Snotbeard the Giant, who lived nearby in the grimy grotto. Thinking his friend was in trouble, Snotbeard didn't even bother with the door. He took one giant step and burst right through the wall of the little cottage, splintered wood flying everywhere. In his massive hand, he held a lit torch, which instantly flooded the room with bright, fiery light. The light revealed a shocking scene. Fergus was wrestling on the floor with a large, ugly orc with green, warty skin and a snarling face. The orc was clutching Fergus's treasure chest.
Hold still, you brute!
Snotbeard's voice boomed. He reached down with one enormous hand and effortlessly plucked the orc off Fergus, pinning her to the floor. The orc thrashed and shrieked, but she was powerless against the giant's strength.
Fergus, are you all right?
Snotbeard asked. Fergus scrambled to his feet, adjusting his rumpled green suit.
I'm fine.
Snotbeard pointed at the struggling orc.
Wait, get some rope. Tie her hands.
Fergus fetched a sturdy rope, and together they tied the orc's hands tightly behind her back. All the while she screamed and snarled at them.
Calm down.
Snotbeard commanded, his voice shaking the dust from the roof. The orc fell silent, but continued to glare at them with pure hatred in her eyes.
Now,
Snotbeard said grimly.
let's see what else this one was carrying.
Fergus cautiously began to search the orc's ragged clothes. But what he found made his blood run cold. One by one, he pulled out a collection of grisly weapons and laid them on the floor. First, he found a dagger tucked into her boot. Its blade was rusty and serrated like a saw, designed to cause a nasty wound. Next, he found a weighted net folded into a small pouch on her belt. It was a Snaggle-Net designed to tangle and trap an enemy quickly. Then, from a hidden pocket, he pulled out 3 small clay pots. He opened one and recoiled from the terrible smell. They were stink bombs meant to choke and blind an opponent. Finally, he found a long, thin rope with tiny, sharp bells tied all along it. A trip rope that would not only trip someone in the dark, but also make a noise. Fergus and Snotbeard stared at the orc.
By my shiny buttons.
Fergus whispered, his voice trembling.
This is one dangerous creature.
Snotbeard nodded.
What's your name?
He asked the orc.
Urzog.
Replied the angry creature.
Urzog Night-Stalker.
What were you doing in here?
Continued Grumblegut. Urzog Night-Stalker just spat on the floor.
I wanted that treasure. I could smell the gold from the outside. I'm a thief, and I wanted what was his.
Fergus gasped.
A thief! I knew it! Where did you come from, you rascal?
Urzog clamped her mouth shut, her jaws set with determination. She refused to speak another word. Snotbeard leaned down, his face so close to the orc's that his nose almost touched hers. He narrowed his eyes, and a low, menacing growl rumbled deep in his chest. It was a sound he rarely made, a sound that promised the mighty boulder shatter was not far away. Urzog's confidence vanished in an instant. Her eyes widened in panic.
Zul'Gath!
She squeaked.
I come from the village of the Zul'Gath in the Moonshadow Mountains.
Fergus's mind raced. An evil thief? Vicious weapons? A mountain village? He put all the pieces together.
Snotbeard!
He declared, puffing out his chest and tapping his cane on the floor for dramatic effect.
The conclusion is inescapable. This creature is a vile thief, and she comes from Zul'Gath. The entire village of Zul'Gath must be a nest of thieves, a den of terrible weapon-wielding monsters. They must all be awful creatures in an awful village. Every last one of them just like her.
Snotbeard looked at the snarling orc, at the nasty weapons on the floor, and nodded grimly.
It makes sense. We must warn Snaggleton. We must march on this village and put an end to their wickedness.
Fergus nodded.
Gather the Snaggletonians! Prepare for battle!
They went to wake the other villagers. Fergus stood on a barrel in the center of the town and gave a speech. He described the terrifying scuffle in the dark, the wicked weapons, and the thieving orc.
And this Urzog,
He finished.
is just one orc from this village of Zul'Gath. We can only assume that every orc in that village is just as cruel, just as dangerous, and just as greedy as she is. We must defend ourselves.
The Snaggletonians, stirred by his words and frightened by the story, all agreed. They gathered their weapons and armor and, with Urzog Night-Stalker reluctantly leading the way, the army of Snaggletonians marched towards the Moonshadow Mountains. They were all on edge, expecting a bloodthirsty orc to jump out from behind every rock. After a long and tense journey, they arrived at the entrance to Zul'Gath. It was a village built into the mountainside, with smoke curling from the chimneys of rough, sturdy stone houses. The Snaggletonians clutched their weapons, ready for the fight of their lives. Just as Fergus was about to give the order to charge, a large wooden door of the biggest house opened. An orc came out, but she didn't look like Urzog. She was tall and strong, with wise, kind eyes and grey braids in her hair. She wore beautiful, rough-spun clothing decorated with polished stones. She was the village chief. When she saw Urzog, her face broke into a look of immense relief.
Urzog!
The chief exclaimed.
Oh, thank the mountains! We've been looking for her for a week.
She walked towards the perplexed Snaggletonians, showing no fear at all.
Thank you for finding her. My name is Ghorza Stone-Hand. Urzog has been causing mischief and trouble for as long as I can remember. She steals from our own people, and she ran off with some of our most precious old treasures last week. We were so worried about the trouble she might cause.
Fergus and Snotbeard were speechless. They stared at the kind orc chief, then at the peaceful village behind her, where other orcs were now coming out of their homes, looking more curious than threatening. The Snaggletonians had been so sure. They had been so ready for a battle.
But we thought...
Fergus stammered.
We thought you would all be like her. Bloodthirsty, dangerous thieves.
Ghorza Stone-Hand gave a hearty, warm laugh.
Like Urzog? By the beard of the great goblin, no! Every village has its own troublemakers. It's not fair to think we are all sour. Just because you have found our one rotten apple, you've done us a great service by catching her. You must be tired from your journey. Please come in. Let us thank you properly with a hot cup of musk tea and some of our famous pebble cakes.
The Snaggletonians lowered their weapons, feeling very silly. They had judged an entire village based on the actions of just one bad orc. They followed Ghorza into the village, and soon the Zul'Gathians and the Snaggletonians were all sitting down together. The orcish pebble cakes, which looked like little grey rocks, were surprisingly soft and sweet. As they all laughed and drank their tea, Fergus and Snotbeard understood their mistake. They had jumped to a big conclusion with only a tiny piece of information, and they had been completely wrong. Well, let's discuss a few words from that episode. A voice in the dark let out a surprised, guttural shriek. When a sound is guttural, it means it is deep, rough, and comes from the back of the throat. The orc's cry was harsh and animal-like. Menacing. Snotbeard leaned down and a low, menacing growl rumbled deep in his chest. If something or someone is menacing, it means they look threatening or dangerous, and they suggest that they might cause harm. Snotbeard's growl was meant to scare the orc. Perplexed. I love this word. She walked towards the perplexed Snaggletonians, showing no fear at all. When you are perplexed, it means you are completely confused, puzzled, and maybe a little shocked by something you don't understand. The Snaggletonians were perplexed by the kind orc chief.